students! We made it to February! It's the first day of Black History Month and Lunar New Year is happening this weekend. Plus, we just passed the first cutoff date in the legislative session. So many things to celebrate! All right, let's get into what is happening in Olympia between now and February 5th. So first off, the policy committees are taking a break until February 14, after the fiscal committees continue to prune bills and the first phase of floor action has wrapped up. Now remember, this is when the Senate is sending bills to the House and the House is sending bills to the Senate. I'm also hearing conversation behind the scenes on those 6 initiatives that the Secretary of State's office officially certified. Now remember, 3 of those initiatives would blow big, giant holes in the operating and transportation budgets if they get on the ballot and are passed after everyone votes in November. Budget writers are definitely skittish about doing new things, especially if there is a significant fiscal impact. Now, I'm hearing there's only about $700 million in new revenue that hasn't been allocated one way or another. Now, this is before we know what will happen with the initiatives, and $700 million may seem like a lot, but the legislature authorized $372.3 million in brand new money just for special education last year. It really doesn't take that long to spend $700 million in Olympia. Now, what happened with the bills we are following this year? As you heard from Ms. Paulson, both HB 2049 and SB 5846 were amended before they came out of the policy committees. So why do we see bills get amended? Well, sometimes there are technical issues. Maybe a weird statute was referenced when there could have been a better option. Maybe there is an actual typo that needs to be fixed. There are lots of reasons for technical corrections. We also see policy changes. These can expand or reduce the scope of the bill. It could be something where the language was really vague and interested parties wanted just more specificity. It could also be that the minority party, which is the Republicans right now, they want to throw in something that would make the bill harder to pass or just much less effective. Now, this isn't always the case, as sometimes a person on the committee will have expertise in a particular topic, and they really are bringing solutions to help the prime sponsor who might just be newer to the issue. These acts of bipartisanship will usually help get more legislators to support the bill when it comes time to vote. And that's what we saw happen with our Beaver bill, SB 5846. So there were 2 Republicans who ultimately voted to pass the bill out of committee and on to Ways and Means. When it comes time to floor action, amendments can be totally weaponized to slow the clock down. Now, I think we are likely to see some drama when HB 2049, the REWRAP Act, comes to the floor for a vote. We saw the Environmental Crimes Bill, SB 5884, voted on today by the full Senate. There was one amendment that would only allow restitution if there was at least one person who was demonstrably harmed. That is a way to raise the legal standard that has to be met and possibly minimize the restitution that could be awarded. Ultimately, the amendment was not adopted, and SB 5884, it's on its way to the House. You might be wondering, okay, the REWRAP Act is scheduled for both a hearing and executive action in House Appropriations, but our Beaver bill hasn't even had a hearing yet in Senate Ways and Means. What gives? Well, Senator Solomon and the advocates behind the Beaver bill need to convince the Ways and Means chair, Senator Robinson, to add the bill to her list of things to move forward. The fiscal note is smaller after the policy committee made amendments, which is a positive, but it's still over $1 million that would need to go to the Department of Fish and Wildlife. Now remember how I said earlier that budget writers are skittish? Well, Senator Robinson has already been saying publicly that she doesn't see a lot of new things getting into the supplemental budget this year. And she's really not afraid to tell folks to try again next year. Now, there is still time for the Beaver bill to get a hearing, especially because legislators are working on Saturday. So fingers crossed we see this one move forward in the process. You might also be wondering what makes the REWRAP Act so special. One thing that might be working in this bill's favor is the governor's office is actively working to pass the bill. I mean, I even saw a video about it on Instagram the other day, and they only do that for the big stuff. Now, the governor doesn't always get his priorities passed by the legislature, but if this is one of the final bills he wants to pass before his term ends, his team is going to do everything they can to make it happen. With that, I hope you learned something new about what is happening in Olympia. If you have any questions, send them along via the Capital Classroom Plus platform. See you next week.